Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to more effectively live with your borderline personality disorder or live more effectively with your complex post-traumatic stress disorder or manage your feelings more effectively if you consider yourself a highly sensitive person or find that you have trouble regulating your emotions. My goal is to share my insight, wisdom, and experience living and treating the disorder for the last 20 years. And I would say I probably have been living with the disorder for about 30 years. While I am not a psychologist or a therapist, I can answer something that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? And while it's important to seek treatment from professionals and watch YouTube channels like Dr. Daniel Fox's channel, what they can offer you is only a slice of academia and their personal experience dealing with clients. My insight is part of that, but also an insight of that I know what it's like to live with the disorder, and so I speak to you from that perspective. I also, in addition to relying on my own personal experiences, I also rely on skills like DBT, which is the formal modality designed for the treatment of borderline personality disorder, although many different kinds of people have taken DBT, so it's not just closed off to those with BPD. So if you are a person that is seeking to live a more effective life and you're interested in positive-based solutions and approaches to recovery, then you are in the right place. And if you are a family member or friend or just someone else interested in borderline personality disorder and you are also interested in positive solution-based approaches to recovery, then there's also a section for you entitled BPD Resources Vids for the Family. So if that all sounds good to you, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week. Let's get going. So here we are, and BPD Woman's dog has decided to join me, so I'll be petting her. So nice. So as I often do, I take video requests from viewers, and it's opened up to anyone. And so I just posted a video called Calling for Your Video Suggestions, and I'll do this every couple of months. And so I had 2 suggestions, one from Kim Poster and another from a viewer named Lydia the Lovely. And so I'm going to do both of their requests. I'm going to do Kim's first since she reached out. I got her request first. So today's video is directly a request from her topic, which is rejection. Yes, hi baby. And putting yourself out there. And specifically, she said, could you do a video about putting yourself out there to others, even though when you felt that your sense of rejection might be high? I'm paraphrasing, but yes, I think that's really important because, right, if you have borderline, you definitely have most likely felt a sense of wanting to be included in a group and wanting to have a friend base and wanting to feel included, but then also having this very deep fear and anxiety that comes with that, which can manifest in waiting for text replies or, wondering if you're still going to see the person in a certain element. Let's say, you've met friends in college, right? And then, you wonder if you're still going to see them once college ends. Or, for instance, I've met a lot of people in my building where I live now, but when I intend to move later in the fall, I wonder, like, how often will I still see some of these people? And so I want to really delve in it because this is a really great suggestion. So thanks, Kim. And I'm going to give you some experiences from my own personal life where, yes, I have put myself out there and had a lot of success. And then I'm also going to, when I felt that there would be a fear of rejection, and then I'm also going to put myself out there when I've put myself out there and I have not been met with success. But I want you to keep in mind something that I keep going back to, which is gray zoning. I keep going back to this in my videos. So gray zoning is this ability to not see in the black and not see in the white. And essentially a way to look at when you're having an inner dialogue with yourself is to use the and in a sentence, right? So instead of saying something very black or white, like, I haven't heard from her, so she's not my friend anymore, I suggest putting an and in there so that your sentence, your inner monologue to yourself could say something, or what I call the tapes, could say something like, I haven't heard from my friend and I don't know why. You know, I haven't heard from my friend and I don't know why, and it doesn't mean our friendship is not kaput. So when you are thinking about putting yourself out there, there are a few things to consider right off the bat, right? Because I know I have definitely felt that when I have found people that might be interested in me or wanted to be my friend, or that I can, you know, be a part of a certain group, I put everything out there. Boo, 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 boo. Like, accept me, accept me, accept me, right? Like, you know, here are all my qualifications. Like, please hire me to be your friend or your girlfriend or whatever. And so that right there can be a recipe for disaster, and what, you know, these self-fulfilling prophecies are. Or, you know, this, you know, you see the world from a certain lens, like nobody wants me, and in turn you seek out people who are unavailable or aren't healthy, and so by default you fulfill this prophecy of yourself that, oh yeah, see, no one's reliable. I was proven right. But the key here is to choose the right people and to choose the right situations. So let's go through a few steps before I delve into who I put myself out there to and when it works and when it doesn't. So let's just set some ground rules here, or tips rather. So the first tip is choosing someone that you can trust and that you can find reliable and that you can find healthy. Now, obviously, trust is built over a lot of time and it's incremental, and you base people off of a certain number of experiences. So you don't give all of your trust up front to someone. You keep it here, and you give it a little, and then you give it a little, and then you open yourself up. Now, okay, Jen, well, if I'm supposed to trust people to make friends, but I'm not supposed to trust them out right away, well then, geez, that kind of sounds like a catch-22. Like, how will I ever meet people? Well, you want to look for metrics that seem sensible to you, or metrics that you might suggest to another person. For instance, you know, are these people employed? Do they take care of themselves? Do they seem to meet the responsibilities? Do they seem pretty committed to their other friends? You know, do you find that they gossip about their other friends? Because maybe that means they're going to start gossiping about you. Do you find that you share the same kind of interests, right? Like, do you find that you share the same kind of morals? And I've done like a few other videos, and I'll put up some links about this, like how to choose your friends, essentially. So check that video out. It can build on what I just said there in tip 1. Tip 2 is, again, to go to making sure that you're going to this gray zone thinking, which means you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, right? And just because you put yourself out there and you don't get the result that you expected, or the relationship doesn't pan out how you want, or it doesn't pan out immediately in the time frame that you've designated, that doesn't mean that it's a fail, right? And so you could have 5 fails in a row, but you got to stay tuned for that 6th one, right? And so you want to, again, making sure that even though it's going to be, because I've been there, right? Like, you know, you build up your confidence. Okay, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to reach out to someone. It's going to be good. And then they don't text back to you, or they don't show an interest. And then you're like, well, why did I even fucking bother, right? So keeping in that gray zone, reminding yourself, okay, I reached out. It was scary. I was vulnerable. They didn't reach back out. It didn't pan out. That's okay. I'm moving on to the 2nd one. So gray zone. And 3 is, yes, prepare for rejection, but also prepare for success. So you're going to put yourself out there, and you're going to be dealing with people, and you are not always going to be happy with the outcome. Then again, you put yourself out there and you are going to meet people that are wonderful and that are really helpful and supportive to you. And that's kind of what you're looking for. The fourth thing, again, to remember in all of this before I go on to my personal experiences, is that people are human, right? And you might find that you'll benefit from having a wider group of people to choose from and to rely on if you don't narrow your friend group or your support network or go to that favorite person, right? And just always relying on that one person. I mean, think about it. Like, it's first of all, it's just not healthy to go to one person all of the time. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the other person. You know, people need space. They need breathing room. They need to go do their own lives. They need to come back to you. So you can't expect realistically for a relationship to work out if you are inundating them all of the time or if they're inundating you all of the time. So that looks like not calling that person 100% of the time when you're having a crisis or a problem, right? Maybe you call that person 20% of the time. What do you do with the other 80%? You call your therapist, you call a family member that you trust, you call another friend. You are expanding your group so again that you don't feel on this self-fulfilling prophecy of, okay, well, you know, they let me down, you know, they didn't answer my 10th phone call in a row, so what the fuck, you know? Keeping in mind that, like, we as BPDs, those with BPD, can be really intense. And even in our greatest of moods, we really put ourselves out there. And that can be sometimes off-putting to people, but I've also found that people really enjoy that and they really love that. And they, you know, I find people think I'm funny and warm and attentive and loving. And, you know, they're like, yeah, that's cool. We like that. So just keep in mind, though, that you need all kinds of different friends. You know, I have different friends, you know, and I also realize that through a lot of failed experiments, I cannot rely on one person. That just puts too much pressure on a relationship. They're not your therapist. Your friends are not your therapists, okay? I mean, you can bounce off of them, you can talk about your problems, but they're not your therapist. So you just want to make sure that there's a healthy amount of sharing and that you're kind of dispersing who you seek out support. So now that we've talked about those 4 tips, let's talk about some of my personal experiences. All right, so before I tell you these 2 stories, I want to tell you that, you know, I did not get to the place I am overnight. Like I mean, I have probably ruined dozens of relationships due to my own fear or self-sabotaging behavior. And so as you go through these processes of vetting people, finding people to let into your life, remember that you must be aware of your self-sabotaging behaviors and that you're not doing things in a preemptive strike to push people away, right? So again, it's that waiting and seeing that's sitting in the middle, and you have to let it play out. Like, you can't watch a movie 10 minutes in and then just automatically assume how it's going to end, right? So think of that with your relationships. You know, okay, I'm at the preview of my relationship, right? I'm in the 10 minutes. I've only seen half the movie, right? So if that analogy helps, then give it a chance, let it play out. In addition, don't ignore warning signs. You know, if this person is abusive or invalidating or says things right off the bat that are flags, like, I don't believe in therapy, or why do you feel like that? That's stupid. Those are immediate rejects. You can cancel those right away, right? If they don't make you feel good after every interaction, then that's something to look at. The second thing is that I felt a lot of fear when I reached out to people. There was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of nail biting, there was a lot of, you know, wondering. There was a lot of times I had to use my distract skills or go on a jog, you know, just things to help get me out of this worry cycle. So let me tell you about a time that I put myself out there and I was about to ruin it and I didn't, and then it had a huge payoff. So I had a friend who I worked with where she later in life, like in her mid-40s, she adopted 2 girls from Colombia. And she brought the girls up to the United States, and single mom. Brought these two sisters up. She adopted them. They were older. They were like 10 and 12, and got these kids, and was giving them this new life here. And then I love the kids. They were, sorry for the noise. They were essentially completely new to their environment, to this new family, and they were looking for support systems. And so I was, a friend of my friend, and I wouldn't say we were extremely close, but definitely the girls being in her life brought us closer together. And so the kids would, and since she was a single mom, and her family lived out west and we lived on the East Coast, she didn't really have a lot of people necessarily to support her, babysit, or do stuff like that. So I would have the kids come over. We'd have little slumber parties, right? We would do all kinds of things. But in the back of my mind, I would worry. I would think, she's going to take my access to these kids away. She's not going to want to be my friend anymore. I'm going to say something stupid, and then her kids aren't going to like me. Like, there were even times, like I remember one time four of us went to an aquarium, and the girl sits there like, Jen, you're crazy. And coming from a 10-year-old, I was really hurt. Like, I thought, she knows I'm mentally ill. Like, what does she mean by that? And I think I might have even said something like, well, what do you mean by, like, I'm crazy? Like, what? Like, but I let it go. Like, I knew it was hard to let it go in that moment. I wanted clarification. I wanted to know what she meant or what she could see, or, and that was a lower self-esteem in me, and it's like, this is a 10-year-old kid, this is not an appropriate place. I'm not going to like grill a 10-year-old, what the hell did you mean by that? Right. So, but then some of these, and then with the distance of time, like, when I don't see someone very often, I kind of like forget that they like me or that we're on good terms or what have you. And so, there were times where I would shut my phone off, or I'd put it on Do Not Disturb, and I hadn't heard from my friend for a while, and things didn't go through my mind. This is like 7 years ago. Things didn't go through my mind like, oh, she must be busy with the kids. Oh, she's a single mom. She has a lot of commitments. And I remember I was about to block her one day. I was just getting too anxious waiting around. I didn't understand like what was going to happen. I not hearing just caused a lot of anxiety. So I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I got a text from my friend. Her name was Carrie. And I got a text, and she said, hey, the girls are going to be baptized, and we'd really love, me and they would really love you to be there to support them. Now, I'm an atheist. I don't do church. I grew up in a Catholic upbringing, which made me an atheist. But I was just on the brink of blocking them or, turning the phone off. And, the next day or two, she wanted me to attend this event, and it was really important to the girls. I was like, wow, here is this like really important religious event to them. And so it's a really big deal that they're inviting me to participate. And wow, like, don't I feel like really special? Now, had I blocked them or had I turned the phone off, I would have missed that completely. And in my own mind, I would have gone off with this narrative that they hate me. The little girl thinks I'm crazy. She told the mom doesn't want me to do anything, right? Instead, I didn't block the phone. I let myself be out there, and I got invited to this really special family event, which brought us closer together as friends. Now, so that is the positive. Now, ultimately, the relationship with the mom didn't work out, and not because of something with the kids, but it got to this point with the mother where I felt I was being a little bit exploited and kind of taken advantage of, and we had a falling out, and as a result, unfortunately, I I lost touch with them maybe about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So this is a black and white thing. It's not, right? It's a gray thing. It was a really good experience. We were close. Ultimately, though, the relationship with the mom had to end because of differences between me and the mother. Okay? But it was still worth putting myself out there. I still remember those girls, and I'm sure they still remember me. And unfortunately, you know, I don't have any rights to those girls, so I can't keep in contact with them. But this is sometimes what happens, unfortunately, as we know. So that is a reminder that you can put yourself out there, something really great happens, and ultimately the relationship doesn't end up how you thought it would years later. That's okay. You're practicing putting yourself out there, because the more wins you have under your belt, the more times that you're brave enough to go out there and put yourself out there to people, the more times you say, hey, would you like to, you know, be friends or whatever, the more mastery you begin to feel. Coupled with that, you have to add in the patience factor and waiting for that movie to play out, like that analogy we just talked about. And so, again, during that time when waiting things out wasn't very easy for me to do, I used a lot of distract skills. I watched a lot of movies. I went for a lot of jogs, you know, really rely on those distract skills from DBT. Another experience I'll share with you very quickly here, where I, you know, kind of like an in general, just experience. You know, I have put myself out to neighbors and friends, and you know, you just have to throw a wide net, and sometimes you catch, you know, those gems that you want to keep, and sometimes you catch cubic zirconias and they're fake as fuck, right? And so I have caught some of those, or, you know, over time you realize this person was kind of a backstabber or they're two-faced, and I didn't hit detonate on the friendship. I just simply blocked them, or I silenced their texts, and I just was not forthcoming anymore. You know, I am no longer an emotional spout that I just give off all of my information, love, and attention and caring to. Not anymore. Like, you know, you turn that faucet on as a drip, and then you can open it if you deem that person they're okay to open the faucet for. But when it's not, you can shut that pipe off. You don't, I mean, so ending a relationship doesn't have to be a blowout or a detonation either. But I've certainly put myself out there many times. And of course, the feeling that you're going to feel if you're rejected is that there is something fundamentally wrong with you. And so you must get it straight in your mind that you are worthy, that your self-esteem is important, that you are a goddamn cool motherfucking person to hang out with or be with. You have to be super cheerleading to yourself. Okay, you cannot let other people validate you. Instead, now of when someone doesn't want to be my friend, or, you know, they reject me, or if I think they perceived me as a rejection, I'll say something like, I used to say something like, oh, there must be something wrong with me, I'm a piece of shit. Now I'm like, I don't know what their problem is. Maybe they're busy, maybe they don't like me for whatever reason, but you know what, I'm fucking awesome. Okay, so second time that I put myself out there and that it was successful is, you know, let me think. I want to use a very specific example. Give me a second. Okay. Let's go with a new friend. Okay. So this is a relatively new friend. I've actually made a couple new friends, especially during the lockdown. And one of them has been a client. And so sometimes, like, navigating this relationship with people as a client and a friend can be difficult navigating. And I'm not saying that it's not going to end up great. It could. But right now it's going really well. You know, we've established this balance of, you know, she's a client, she pays on time, she's respectful of my time, she doesn't abuse that. That doesn't leak over to our friendship. You know, we've gotten on many FaceTime calls. We're going to get our dogs together this weekend. You know, when we're like having our friend time, the business part doesn't really come up. And so I haven't, you know, I find now that I don't throw everything out there, right? Like, they don't get access to like my full report. They don't get access to like my life story, right? Like I used to be like, here's everything that happened to me in childhood. I don't do that now. You know, I think all I've said at this point is I'm not in touch with my parents for really good reason, and I'm just going to leave it at that right now. That's it. I don't need to get into all of that. I don't need to get into all that stuff. And it would be inappropriate to do so at this point. So, but that's working out. One other example of putting myself out there and fearing, I think the takeaway here is that the success of the relationship, if you put yourself out there, is not the metric of the reward to yourself. So if you put yourself out there and that doesn't pan out, I don't believe it's helpful to say, oh, we'll see. That's why I shouldn't put myself out there, right? For me, the reward is I put myself out there. I didn't abuse anyone. I didn't yell at anyone. I was appropriate. I was level-headed. I was emotionally regulated. That's the win for me. You know, for me, that's the reward. But I can definitely tell you that it's become easier. And insofar as putting myself out there and the sitting and waiting and the patient and being able to gray zone. And so I hope that you can take something away from this video. Please leave me your comments, suggestions below, and contribute to, hello, give me a kiss. Thank you. Please contribute to the comments below, and consider liking, subscribing, sharing. And until I see you next time in everything you do, please be effective. Bye.